October 4th, 1957. The Russian satellite Sputnik is launched into orbit. 1961. Yuri Gagarin and Alan Shepard brave space as the first humans to leave the atmosphere. May 25th, 1961. Kennedy officially challenges a nation to land a man on the moon by the end of the decade.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
July 20th, 1969. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin land on the moon.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Voyagers 1 and 2 were launched in 1977, giving us our first real, clear images of Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. In 1990, Space Shuttle Discovery deploys the Hubble telescope, letting us see further. In 1997, Pathfinder arrives on Mars. In 2012, Voyager 1 moves into interstellar space, carrying a golden record to other species that may find the craft. In the same year, Curiosity, the Mars rover, lands on the Martian surface, allowing us to further understand the planet. 2016, SpaceX and NASA work to land people on the Red Planet. Some centuries ago, Ares 1 lands to investigate what is hovering above Mars that has changed the surface of Venus, Jupiter, and Mercury. What would they find? What had this kind of power to change planets? What did destiny have in store for them? Hey everybody, it's your buddy Beard Grizzly, and today we're reflecting on a few things. This channel is relatively new, when at one point so was our vision of the stars, either through the eyes of Galileo and his telescope, or from the massive Hubble lens in orbit around us. We have been given a vision of the stars that we have been able to cultivate into so very many ideas that give us a glimpse of what's out there. Destiny is just one of them. I wanted to take a look at how the Golden Age came about, and some of the basics for how humanity was able to build what it is we only hear stories about today, ones that give our guardians hope for a brighter tomorrow. If you've read through Grimoire, you'll know it doesn't take long to unfold the story of the Ares 1 and its 3 crew members. We see the discovery of the Traveler in the opening cutscene of the game, as you've already seen, but we don't know how humanity felt about the Traveler, or even the state that Earth was in before it arrived. From the diaries of Commander Jacob Hardy, pilot, Ares 1. The mission is a go. Crew of 3, Mihailova, Chow, myself. Immediate departure at the next home and window to Mars. The MREs and return ship will chase us out. How do I feel? I said at the press conference I felt privileged. Historians will read this diary, but it won't take their insight to tell the world that I'm terrified. It's the human reaction. What I wish I could convey is the exhilaration. That's the biggest thing. I'm not a spiritual man, but I've always believed there's something transcendent about spaceflight. Something pure. We go out there because we can. Because it's who we are. Now we go because we have to. Because the unknown came to us. In 14 months, we'll be face to face with it, and by the time we arrive, it should be active again, just like it was active on Jupiter and Mercury and Venus. I wonder what happens if it doesn't stop at Mars. I wonder if it'll leave us there in the sand and come to Earth and do here what it's done everywhere else. I hate that we're carrying weapons. I understand the necessity, but I hold to my belief. There's something beautiful out there. It's up to us to reach it. For a couple pieces of vocab, a home and window is what we use to calculate our means to get to a point in space from Earth. If you ever hear of a delay in a launch, this is the window they oftentimes refer to fitting into. MRE stands for Meal Ready to Eat, or Space Rations for short. Anyway, the card itself fills us in on Hardy's accounts perhaps just as much as humanity's accounts of these times. Terrified but in awe, excited but tempered, curious but wary. We aren't sure how far into space we had gone before the Traveler arrived, but being they state the time to reach Mars is 14 months, we can gauge that no significant changes in space travel have happened yet. Could it be, judging by the make of the capsule we see in the video, along with the suits the 3 astronauts wear, that the Traveler is showing up not long from, say, today? Speculation, my mind's wandering, and we're only on card 1. Everybody asks about the words. The truth is, I'm not much of a poet. Ares 1 didn't leave us with bandwidth for anything except blunt competence. We came in perilously hot, trying to select the landing site through the chaos of thickening atmosphere and turbulence that bloomed off the target. A 20-minute round-trip light-speed delay to Earth meant we could only count on ourselves. When the number 3 engine went diagnostic during the second course correction, I thought we might go catastrophic. But Chow brought us in. Mihailova brought us in. I just flew the ship. The Ares 1 excursion vehicle was built for thin winds and icy dust. We came down into a storm, the breath of God, a ripple of change rolling down off the artifact. We aborted on 3 sites, and finally I took us into powered hover and brought us down on reflexes and instincts. Then we ran the checklists, suited up, and left the vehicle. There was a script, and it's true, I botched it. I got my boots down and made the most famous guffaw in human history. Said the first thing that came to mind, a warning to the others. We're walking into a rising wind. I didn't mean to say anything immortal, I just thought it'd be useful to know. We're walking into a rising wind. Of course, he never knew what that would mean for humanity. I do find it ironic that Hardy would say this, given we don't find out until much later in Destiny's life about the whirlwind of the Fallen and how the houses fell, but that's for an entirely different day. I just wanted to call the parallel here. The approach itself to Mars was rough for Ares 1, as the Traveler was in the process of terraforming Mars. Hardy refers to it as the target and the artifact, while calling the storm it produces the breath of God. Further parallels to the Fallen. Anyway, the hike from Ares 1. You've watched it. Everything was recorded. I think you can get it in full immersion now and fly around like a hummingbird. I'll add what I can. The route was planned. We all went together. The CEV and Ares 1 itself had enough automation to go home alone at the event of crew loss. Whatever we'd find at the artifact, it needed the human element. We carried rifles. They made us heavier and slower and probably less safe. I think the argument about the rifles can be left for another time. What's important is, it turned out well. Look at me. Look at us. You're talking to a 90-year-old man, a 90-year-old who's never been sharper. I'm miles ahead of every cognitive benchmark. What's happened to me is good. What's happened to all of us is good. When we crested that rise and made visual contact with the artifact, I don't think any one of us dared dream that it would end this well. We went to Mars at the cutting edge of human civilization, and it wasn't our weapons that won the day. It was our ship, our training, our camaraderie, our belief that if we just reached out to the universe, not to grasp for profit or security, but with an open hand, we would be elevated. We were right. That makes me so happy, to this day. Vocab check. CEV stands for Crew Exploration Vehicle. This would be the lander of the Ares 1, and in the event that the crew would be lost, both lander and rocket could rejoin in orbit and leave Mars on their own. These are our first glimpses into what happened during the Golden Age. We see what kind of cognitive effects the Traveler has on humanity, judging from Hardy's in-depth account, recalling the weight of the rifles they held, for instance. The one paragraph at the end here, however, feels to be open to interpretation. Our belief that if we just reached out to the universe, not to grasp for profit or security, but with an open hand, we would be elevated. For me, this means one of two things. Either we're seeing a philosophy that Hardy carries, or one of the people he works with, or there was a reason for humans to reach out with an open hand, leading me to think Earth was in trouble, either by resource shortages or something else. 3 human beings stood on a high ridge and saw the shape of the future. Saw rain strike a millennia-old desert, felt the air sweetened with oxygen and warm water, and the beginnings of life. I am sometimes asked if I felt something die, the end of the era of human self-sufficiency. I don't know how to answer that question. I do know that I was changed. Nobody could experience that kind of wonder and remain unchanged. The decades since have proven that to me. I knew I'd never fly another mission like that. I recognized the need for a new love. That's why I threw my fresh cognitive skills into understanding the Traveler. How can one entity so quickly and utterly remake an entire world? 50 years later, I'm conversant in high mathematics, particularly topological thoughts and the slippery irreality of light. I'm involved in a project to study the Traveler's terraforming actions right now. But I still enjoy the interviews. I like going back to that mission. It makes me unspeakably happy to see how well it all turned out. And it makes me happy to remember I was there. Though I wonder how well I would be able to recount something at the age of 90, we see further just how well Hardy can recount a situation, both with smells and feelings. Though meeting something like the Traveler would be something you may never forget, memory does degrade over time, and sometimes it takes smelling, feeling, or seeing something to trigger other parts of a memory you've had locked away. The science of memory, however, is a very detailed thing, but all we have to go by is his accounts of events. He goes on, "I am sometimes asked if I felt something die, the end of the era of human self-sufficiency. To me, it seems not everyone is happy with the radical changes that the Traveler has graced to human society. Rightfully so, in a way. Rapid change is occurring, and theories we've had in science today are proven, disproven, or given further understanding by the Traveler's knowledge. For instance, topological mathematics is only an idea, one that is far too broad to even try to explain here. What I can say is it feels like the basis for NLS travel in Destiny, understanding hyperspace lanes." Letting the science talk come out again. The Golden Age brought about many changes to Earth, ones that started to cause humanity to become less reliant on weapons and defenses and more relaxed during a time of peace. Just reading over the pages of the Kvastov's manual gives you hints of this. Scrawled in the margins are numerous notes. "Vasily, this man is not fit to write an instruction manual for garden trowel. Do not worry, I have used my time well and updated this untranslatable with notes that will help you every single day. You are welcome. Your friend, Dmitri." "You want feedback, you untranslatable goat? Your machine technique for barrel rifling is inconsistent. The trigger assembly hasn't been updated in years, and the weapon shell has all the design aesthetics of a Lenin-era post office. This is the folly of modern combat thinking, Vasily. We are safe, right? We have no need for soldiers, not anymore. And if we ever do again, they will think clearing a jam in an hour acceptable because a book told them so. That is why I am here. I will tell you different." And the generals ask why the soldiers no longer have fighting spirit. What spirit can we have when this is what we work with? I make changes here. Follow. Terrible Russian accent aside, we are also given the birth of exos and other robot sentries built to protect us. We were able to colonize different areas of space such as Venus, Mars, and as far as the Outer Rim with the reef colonies. Of course, we all know this comes crashing down in the collapse, our own great whirlwind that gives rise to what we now defend today. The Fourth Humans card really gives us our first taste of how humanity is exposed to light, telling us it wasn't just something born of the Traveler's death. Light very well could be the reason for our increase in everything. Our technology, medicine, defenses, the rise of the war minds, creation of life, and want to live forever. Sounds kind of familiar in a way to someone else we know using light in other ways than just violence. We also know about organizations that have used light to try to strengthen humanity, even with good intentions that even centuries later could have had catastrophic backlashes. Could it be the basis of why the Fallen are trying to get the Traveler back? Is it the reason we are being harrowed by Cabal and Hive, as light is what keeps all imbalance of worlds, militaries, thought, science, and life itself? With so much darkness in the universe, no wonder it creeps in to further understand its cast shadow. I understand I've made a lot of comparisons to our history, but as you go through the game, look around you in the Cosmodrome. You're standing and jumping around in a structure that exists today, a monument to thousands of people that dreamed for the stars and landed us on the moon. Destiny's history is our history, and as we go forward, you can bet I'll be keeping my mind open to continuing to make these connections. I've been Beard Grizzly, and I thank you for being here at the start of the channel, and the start of our long look into the lore of Destiny, perhaps a bit of our own. Take care.